Go ahead, sorry.
the whole RG3 thing when he had talked about Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders and how the Browns have practiced, quarterback competition malpractice. And I talked about, and I tweeted, I said, you and Kirk Cousins were drafted in the same draft by the same team, right? Regardless of what a team says, even if they say there's a competition, the underlying rules and the cardinal rules that people don't, and it's not written, is your draft status drives your opportunity. And RG3 out of everybody knows that, right? Even if the coaching staff wanted Kirk Cousins in the 4th round and went and double backed and got him, RG3 was handed the keys to the franchise from day one, and that's just because of his draft status. No matter how bad RG3 played, Kirk did not get his shot till RG3's knees went out from Haloti Ngata. And that's the facts. And so when you talk about Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders in that situation, the Browns went and drafted. Well, let me go back. They traded for Kenny Pickett in the offseason. They gave up a current year draft pick for Kenny Pickett. So that's one acquisition. They signed Joe Flacco back, who's another acquisition who took them to the playoffs a few years back. Deshaun Watson he got hurt last year, but he's going to be healthy by midway this year. So that's already 3 quarterbacks. The 4th quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, was drafted in the 3rd round, right? Or 2nd or 3rd round. I can't remember. 3rd round. They took Swessinger in the 2nd round. 3rd round. And then Shedeur finally goes in the 5th round. So you're the 5th option at this point behind 4 other options. Whatever media agendas are being written, that's not what's being said in the rooms, or that's not what's being done. And people who have played in the NFL, been in these locker rooms, been in these meeting rooms, higher up personnel who have been in these offices on cut day building these 53-man rosters, know the underlying rules that draft status drives opportunity. And Shedeur could do everything right, but that still isn't going to afford him the opportunity to win the backup job just because they took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. And that's just how it is, And that was my point to RG3 was because you were drafted 1st pick, RG, taking nothing away from your college career, Heisman winner, record setter at Baylor, Kirk Cousins was not going to get the same opportunities you got until you got hurt. And that's just, it is what it is.
So I mentioned Kyle Slater coming on the podcast, and he, again, average NFL fan here, but I was certainly not privy to a lot of these things. But he was saying how similar to, I guess, draft capital, you also have literal capital. Like if teams invest a lot of money into a certain quarterback, they are going to stick with that quarterback for a longer period of time, even if the backup is maybe performing better. Because the GM, and it blew my mind how this all kind of connected. This is probably so obvious for you, but because the GM, right, like if the backup outperforms the quarterback that they just paid, whatever, $100 million to, now the GM is going to look like an idiot. And he's like, why do we pay all this money to this guy when we have his backup who's way better and way cheaper, and we could have invested that money. Yep. And so now the GM's job is on the line. So there's like stuff like that when you mention draft capital, when you talk about contracts and who's getting paid and who's not, and certain people wanting to protect their image and all these things. Like a lot of factors go into the timing that you mentioned, and the opportunity, quite frankly.
One thing people won't realize is a lot of these general managers, they know they're on the hot seat. They are going to go out on the hot seat by playing their hand. And that is, if a GM signed Deshaun Watson for that $200 million guaranteed contract, he's going to get fired behind Deshaun Watson in that $200 million contract. Not necessarily because he gave that money to him, but one, it's on your track record. If you as a GM, think about it. If you as a GM gave all this money to one person, put all your chips on the table, and then a year later, you're like, oh, never mind, this guy's playing better, which he probably is playing better, and you put him in, it doesn't make you look good as a GM, right? One, it doesn't make your eyes look good from your scouting perspective, like, hey, this guy, I missed on him. Nobody as a GM likes to have a lot of misses on their track record. That doesn't get you hired in the NFL as another GM, right? If you're a GM and you have a lot of hits, That's what gets you hired. That's what gets you extensions. The Howie Rosemans, right? The Brett Veach at Kansas City. That's what gets you extensions year after year, is you have more hits than misses. But when you have misses, and the media, the public, everybody with, eyesight can see that it's a miss. If you confirm that miss, that just, you can already, dock it on your resume, and it's hard to get hired in this league when you have misses like that. And that's what I'll say about that.